One of the biggest scams ever collectively pulled off by corporate America is forced arbitration. To put it in its simplest terms, forced arbitration eliminates a consumer's right to sue corporations when they break the law. Millions of Americans have agreed to this by signing arbitration clauses in contracts. They're in your credit card contracts, your cell phone plans, your car and your mortgage loans. The list goes on and on as corporations are making sure that they're the ones with the legal advantage over you when they find themselves in trouble. And when they do, that contract you signed won't allow you to file a lawsuit or participate in a class action against them for ripping you off. Instead, you'll have to go before a panel of arbitrators to resolve the dispute. Unless you're a board member of one of these corporations, there's no way that these arbitration clauses are going to help you. Usually corporations pick the arbitrators so they know that they're going to have a friendly audience. They also have the benefit of having almost endless money to drag out the process where most consumers can't even afford to hire a lawyer. And when you're talking about small amounts of money, it can cost a customer more to arbitrate than they could ever get back in damages. And even if a consumer is willing to jump through all the countless hoops corporations put in place, studies show that businesses win above 80% of the time. The deck's always been stacked against American consumers. Now, here's a quick example of how this issue can hurt you personally. Suppose your credit card company or cell phone company was intentionally overcharging you by $5 a month. And not just you, but 10 million people a month. Because you signed that arbitration agreement, you can't join a class action lawsuit with other victims. Instead, each one of those people has to hire their own lawyer for hundreds of dollars an hour just to get their $60 back. In other words, you lose the money in the process even if you win, while the corporation pockets 50 million stolen dollars. That kind of tells the story at what's stake here. Right now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is trying to work on rules to prevent corporations from using these binding arbitration clauses in their contracts. But they're facing stiff opposition from elected officials in Washington, D.C. When you have both major political parties in the United States controlled by big business, you're always going to lose as a consumer. And that's why corporations have been trying for decades to paint plaintiffs' attorneys negatively. Both Democrats and Republicans are owned and operated by big business and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. That's why forced arbitration is a way corporations will be stealing from consumers for a very long time. Joining me now to talk about these arbitration clauses and how they work and how they overwhelmingly help corporations is Tim O'Brien. Tim, tell us what arbitration clauses do to American consumers.
Pretty simple. It's two things. Number one, these clauses enable fraudulent corporate conduct. Number two, they facilitate. And let's talk about what facilitate means. It means to make easy. These clauses facilitate, make easy the hosing of the American consumer. That's all there is to it. It's plain and simple.
Well, what kinds of businesses and companies use these clauses, and when did they become really widespread? I remember the U.S. Chamber of Commerce started this jihad against both consumer lawyers, and at the same time that they were attacking consumer lawyers so the person on the street simply didn't have access to the court. That was their goal. They were also putting in place this arbitration idea. This is heavily pushed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, those folks that we always believe is mom and pop grocery store down the street. It's not, is it? This U.S. Chamber of Commerce is 19 of the largest multinational corporations in the world fund the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So this arbitration clause is perfect for them, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and there are very few guarantees that any attorney like me can ever make, but I can make this guarantee to everyone watching your program, Mike, and that is this. You are a subject of an arbitration clause. If you have spent any money in the United States over the last few years, you are part of an arbitration agreement. You don't even know that. So it's everything from your credit cards, to your cell phone, to your cable bill, to your internet service provider, to even the apps that you sign up for that you quickly accept. And unfortunately, there's very little you can do. If you want that service, if you want to have a telephone in your house, then you've got to accept, you've got to put yourself into this arbitration agreement and waive your rights to a jury trial.
Well, it's even worse than that, isn't it, Tim? I mean, if you think about it, say Wall Street, say some broker on Wall Street steals $1 million from you. It's your life savings. They steal $1 million. They do that by messing with stocks and bonds that you own. Do you realize, and I think this is the ugliest thing about it, most people don't know that you don't get to take that thief to court. You have to take that thief to an arbitration panel where the thief gets to pick at least one of the arbitrators, and most of the time it ends up being two of the arbitrators, and it's totally stacked against you in favor of the thief. Is that kind of where this whole thing is going, on how the whole court system could end up there if we don't pay attention to what's happening with arbitration?
It's even worse than that, Mike. Actually, in a lot of these financial issues, so involving banks or credit cards, it's a single arbitrator. And typically that single arbitrator comes from a group called the National Arbitration Forum, which is an industry-funded group of attorneys where they hand select who goes into that forum, into that panel of groups. And so you have one person deciding what is your compensation, if any, and 90-some-odd% of the time folks lose. But number two, what are your rights? So it's really, it is the encapsulation of the American kangaroo court is the arbitration clause system.
So in other words, the thief steals money from you, the corporate thief steals money from you one way or another, through your phone, through your credit card, through your bank, through your whatever it may be, your stock account. They steal money from you, and then the thief gets to pick the people who are going to decide whether they did anything wrong. Does that get it right? Is that accurate?
That's exactly right. And what's even worse is it can turn on the other side too. So in other words, what are your rights against a company? Now say, as this has happened to many servicemen and women who've served overseas, what happens, say, if there's a debt? And perhaps that debt's valid, perhaps it's not valid. Well, typically that debt to be collected goes through a process, and you have the right to be heard about it. You have the right to contest the validity of the debt, and that a debt actually exists. Many of the debts now, or the supposed debts, are also subject to this arbitration provision. So a company can involuntarily put you into an arbitration before a single arbitrator from this NAF, the National Arbitration Forum, and you're overseas fighting for our country, and you have no idea that there now is an arbitration judgment against you for a debt which you had no ability or even notice that you had the right to contest that debt even exists. So it's not just for protection, it's for offense, and the corporations are using this arbitration provision offensively.
Okay, let me get this right though, but this is what's startling about it. The corporate thief, whether we're seeing it with banks, very common with banks, very common with credit cards, very common on anything you do with Wall Street, very common on your phone, these types of contracts where thieves can steal $5 a month, okay? Now, let's say at the end of the year, you know, they've stolen, let's say at the end of 10 months, you figure out they've stolen $50 from you. So you go, to get your $50 back, you have to hire an attorney that's going to cost you $200. But the thief who has stolen your money has done it to 10 million people. And so the thief, those 10 million people can't go out and hire their individual lawyers. And the thief also knows, the corporate thief also knows, that you can't join a class action, can you? Isn't that part of the arbitration limitation?
Absolutely. 9 out of 10 of these arbitration provisions include class action prohibitions. So the corporations know, they understand the theory of divide and conquer. They know that most American consumers cannot afford to go collect on a $60 or $100 or even $150 debt or transgression against a corporation. But when you put these people together in a class action, there's efficiency, there's strength in numbers, and it can become a real issue for the corporation because it could cost them tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars in order to compensate folks for this collective wrongdoing. And the corporations know by busting that up, by dynamiting that ability of the American consumer to do that, they take away and they make a reality of these folks are never going to have their day in court, or even for that matter before an arbitration panel. It's all by design, and right now they are executing it perfectly.
So in other words, the banking thief, they can sit in a boardroom and they can say, look, you know, we can actually steal $50 a month from 10 million people, and the reason we're going to get away with it is because that person we steal from isn't going to be able to hire an attorney. That person we steal from isn't going to be able to join a class action. So basically, we're going to pocket all of that $50 to $100 million and get away with it because we have been successful in selling the American public the arbitration clause. Real quickly, is there anything a consumer can do about this, Tim? Anything at all?
There's very little that can be done right now. Right now, the Consumer Protection Bureau is trying to essentially ban arbitration clauses, and Congress, meanwhile, is trying to take that right away. So call your congressman, tell them to support the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau's efforts to regulate arbitration clauses in consumer contracts.